What's going on, everybody? Good morning, good evening, wherever you are and whatever time it is, and welcome back to another video with you, man, Measureholic. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my Rise of the Julia campaign for Total War Rome 2 Divided Impera, episode 13. So today we are starting off with a night raid launched by the Carthaginian navy against the town garrison stationed at Acragas. Acragas is our town on the southwestern coast of Sicily, and Carthage is coming at us in the middle of the night with a massive armada of troops against us. However, because they are doing a night attack against us, that does mean that they will be limited to only using one navy. However, it is still a full navy, which is very strong against our very weak militia civilian garrison. This occurred during the end turn phase, FYI, just after I ended my last video. So don't worry, you guys haven't missed anything. I'm just starting this video here today. So for now, we have a very desperate defense, but if we play our cards right and try and get these long-range troops they have into melee, we might be able to pull this off. See you on the battle map. And there they are. Almost menacing in the distance underneath the moonlight. It is an absolutely stunning battlefield to have. One main reason I wanted to showcase this battle to you guys is that battles like this never happen. The AI never attacks your settlements or your armies during the night, at least for me in the past. And so now, hopefully with recent updates to Divided Impera, we're going to see the AI making really intelligent moves like this one. This is a really excellent option, and it's an option I was even considering doing against Carthage itself later on in the campaign. But anyway, not a lot to say about my garrison. Besides that, it's pretty pathetic. We have a couple swordsman units, a couple hoplites, a few citizen units, and then a couple archers, which are going to be very monumental in defending the town. Here I landed my navy straight away. I pretty much always recommend you do this. It's very rare that you wouldn't want to do this because your general unit or your captain of the garrison is on your ships when you start these battles, if you only have the garrison. Here you can see the enemy navy landing. Some beautiful war horns going on as they are. Very dramatic. I absolutely love fighting this battle. But anyway, within a few moments the navy has landed. Most of the navy, not all, keep in mind. And they are now attacking us. The enemy is basically full of archers and skirmishers. There were almost no melee units whatsoever, besides one, I believe, which is their general. And he hasn't landed yet. So to try and deal with these long-range threats, I wanted to try and draw them into the town, and you're going to see this happen on the right-hand side of the map where I'm directing my civilians. I'm trying to trap them in the streets so I can surround them, and then by surrounding the enemy archers and skirmishers, we force them to go into melee mode, and that is the only chance we have of winning, if any chance at all. And they have very decent armor on their archers, the skirmishers not so much, but these are very well-trained units. We're not going up against some slouch of an army here. This is a very strong navy, and most of the naval units, I believe, even had veteran ranks to them as well. So they are very solid in fights, and they're going to do very well in melee against our very weak troops. So I'm going to have to rely on not just outflanking the enemy, but doing a little bit more to it, and you're going to be seeing what exactly very soon. On the right hand side, we did manage to trap a good chunk of the enemy archers and whatnot into a melee fight on the right hand side, and you're going to see my archers are going to come in to playing a massive role in dealing with that chunk there. In the center, I did chase down some of the enemy archers, but not all, so the majority of their archers are going to be doing a lot of damage. Meanwhile, on this right hand side, you're seeing exactly what my archers are here for. Flaming arrows. I really can't say enough how much of an impact my archers had on this battle, and will have an impact in future battles to come. The enemy troops that we had surrounded were slowly losing. They were probably going to lose, but we probably would have lost a lot more troops out of those units that were engaged. And so coming in just as they were wavering, with my archers that use flaming arrows, to damage their morale so severely, that really turned the tide of the battle. So I'm going to be using it here again on the left-hand side while I move up and surround the enemy's general unit. We are starting to see that a lot of my units are getting very depleted. We're receiving a constant barrage of arrows this entire time. I do have the arrow trails turned off. If you would prefer to be able to see the arrows a lot easier, at least for night battles, do let me know. I'm open to turning the trails on. I just prefer it off. I think it looks way better, and I think the trails look rather terrible. But that's just my taste, so do let me know down below. But anyway, we're taking a barrage constantly across the board. All of my units are getting hammered, and all of my units have very low armor, so they're not going to last very long. That's why I'm really trying to rush my troops forward and take these melee fights. Luckily, my archers come in again with the flaming arrows, and we end up routing the enemy general. I believe we even killed him here in a second as he was running. Either way, it doesn't matter. I don't have time to try and chase down the enemy general. I have to focus on engaging the other archers in a melee fight. As you can see, we've lost nearly half of our troops, and they're still going down very quickly. A lot of my troops are on the verge of wavering, or are wavering even, especially my weaker troops like my citizens. So this really isn't looking good despite us making some good progress against the enemy. We need to break through this tiny little choke point here. If I can, then I can focus on the main clump of archers, But for whatever reason, even though that unit was routing that's in the choke point on the right hand side, they were just not moving for such a long time. It was horrible. I really, really hated it. On the left hand side, I have some of my units beginning to rout. My right hand side is wavering. But we do get a little bit of a breakthrough on the left hand side with, again, my archers coming in with those flaming arrows, forcing the enemy troops to rout. Now you're going to see us engaging the main group of archers in a melee. However, a lot of my troops are wavering. This doesn't matter that we're engaging them now. Almost it doesn't matter. Because a lot of my troops on the verge of wavering. We just lost another unit on the left hand side. We now only have one unit engaging the two archers there. If that unit routs, good chance that the rest of my army is going to. As is the same case on the right hand side where two of my units are now wavering. That is extremely dire. If they rout, chances are we're going to get a chain rout across our own units. So I decided instead of attacking the main block, I would divert my flanking archers to attack this one single unit, so that way we can back up our other troops who are on the verge of routing. Keep in mind also, I did keep my general close in the main town square. I kept him so the radius of his aura would be affecting all of my troops just about as much as possible, while also keeping him safe. Hence why they're just sitting in the middle of the town square. Luckily, again, the archers come in, but also the archers that were flanking and got into the melee came in, and we managed to rout that unit from that one checkpoint. However, my units are still on the brink of going to wavering and then into routing very quickly after. This battle is still not a done deal. As you can see, some of my units are already starting to waver just from running. They're very tired, they've taken a lot of casualties, and boom, just like that, we lose another unit of troops. That's really bad. We don't have time to form up a perfect formation to rear charge these enemy archers. We just have to get in there and get involved. And I'm committing all of my archers. We don't have anyone firing any flaming arrows anymore. We didn't have time for that. And flaming arrows will affect your own units, so keep that in mind for yourselves. However, the enemy archers can't take that rear charge, and with that, we win the battle. Except we don't. As you can see in the background by the lighthouse, there's actually an enemy ship that was sitting out there this entire time. I was thinking, okay, where's the victory screen popping up? Why haven't I won yet? And that's why. 100-man unit on a ship is a very scary thing to deal with, especially when my units were all so low. So this was very easily still a losable battle. My troops are wavering as they're running over to engage him after I had to bait them to get off their ship, which took a little while, but it wasn't too rough, thankfully. FYI, I do recommend you leave a timer on for your battles so you don't have to deal with things like this, because a lot of the time with amphibious assaults, the navies will glitch out. But anyway, as you can see, some of my troops are routing, but just as they routed, the enemy routed too, and with that, we defend Akragas successfully. Wow, what a battle that was. It's funny how armies or navies, whatever you want to call it, can have epic battles despite the actual number of troops being fairly small. Um, but that was really, really tense. Might not have been too tense to watch, but for me fighting it, it was really, really tense. But anyway, within just a few more seconds, we don't even get an extra turn in between fights. We're again defending the town from the full-on naval assault. And so now we have the full might of the Carthaginian navy assaulting Acragas. That, and they have a full stack army coming in with them at the same time. You could see the army's cavalry and general were deployed on the left-hand side of the battlefield there, at least from our perspective. And they're going to be charging into the town pretty quickly. And of course my reinforcements coming in probably from the worst place possible across the map up on top of a hill, so our troops are going to be very tired once I get to the town. I'm not going to cover the entire battle too thoroughly like I usually would. I know this is a fairly major battle, however we did just fight the same kind of battle, at least in the exact same town. But regardless, we are going to continue on. As you can see, the enemy's cavalry did charge in, and they're going to get hammered by some of our archers, but our archers are very depleted from the nighttime raid that they launched just before launching this full-on amphibious assault. So the garrison pretty quickly gets overwhelmed and utterly destroyed, which did suck a fair bit, but I was expecting it at the same time. I tried to enclose the enemy inside the town. I tried to surround all of their avenues of escape, or at least their main ways of approach to my reinforcing army. It worked to some extent. We were able to draw out a decent amount of the troops and isolate them and attack them and keep them divided from their main force, which still hadn't even landed by this point. It took the enemy navy a long time to land all of their ships, and it's going to happen throughout the battle. There isn't really one main point where their entire navy is going to land all at once, which is going to work in our favor. It is a bit of a cliche, but as they say, divide and conquer, and it's a cliche for a reason. It works, and we're seeing that happen here. However, the Carthaginians do send off a good chunk of their navy, combined with some troops that they have on the land already, and they're coming in on their left-hand flank here. I'm going to be forming up a second battle line to try and deal with that. While on the right-hand side, I've been using my cavalry to surround the enemy and try to get some good rear charges in. However, there's something I want to bring up. I don't know what has happened recently in the last couple of episodes, I guess, of episodes worth of gameplay. You have to keep in mind each episode is probably cut from about 2 to 3 hours of gameplay. More about 2 hours, but sometimes 3. And I try to cut it all down into a little amount where I can kind of give you guys just a general story of what's happening and give you guys the highlights. And in all the battles I've been fighting, and probably the last couple videos worth of footage, I'm not sure what happened, but the Carthaginians seem to be very rarely retreating. Well, they do retreat, but it takes a lot longer than what you would typically expect. It's nice that the enemy isn't buckling too easily under pressure. However, I can't lie, it has been very tedious, especially in a upcoming battle in this video that I'll be talking to you guys about soon. But yeah, just in general, our cavalry is really inefficient. Even my shock cavalry here, my Thessalian cavalry, they just weren't getting kills. And what kills they did get were against light infantry. And now that's nice that my cavalry do good against light infantry, but any cavalry can do good against light infantry. I need cavalry that are going to damage the Carthaginian hoplites, the Carthaginian heavy swordsmen, which are, to be honest, the bane of my legion so far. Well, it's hard to say they're the bane of the Legion when the enemy archers have done so much against us, but the Carthaginian hoplites and the heavy swordsmen, they just stay in combat for so long. And we're going to be seeing that demonstrated perfectly in this battle here. As you can see, eventually the navy landed a few more ships and the Carthaginians felt a little bit more confident in coming in and attacking my second front line. And they do so with heavy swordsmen and heavy hoplites as well. Just a few hoplites, but mainly swordsmen. a bit of a mixture. Down in the town, the enemy's cavalry did charge into some of my braced Hastati, and my other Hastati and Brutian infantry were heading in to try and assassinate the enemy general, and they are going to do that, but that is going to take them a bit longer than what I would like. Here you can see my Thessalians coming in. They even get an incredibly good charge, knocking over a lot of the enemy's troops, but they actually don't really get too many kills from that, and they're not even going to rout the hoplites that they charge. They're not even going to make them waver. But the swordsmen next to those hoplites did rout just as we charged in, so that's interesting. But yeah, it's just something I noticed in my battles, and it's nice that the AI isn't getting pushed over easy, but it is very annoying, especially with what's going to come up soon. And you guys will understand in a couple minutes here what I mean. But anyway, this battle is going to continue going the same way. I'm just trying to recharge a lot. Our main battle line has been pretty much fully engaged. I have some troops in the town, but they are landing more ships at the beaches of the town. So they're going to be taking a fair bit to rotate around and come get involved in this main fight. However, the main fight is going very badly for me. A lot of my troops have begun to waver. At least half of the army, if not more like 3/4, have lost half of the men in their units. So this is actually starting to look very shaky. There's a very good chance that we're going to end up losing this. All it takes is a general to die and a couple units to rout, and we'll get a chain rout against us. It's really not looking promising. I had to bring in some damaged troops that I held in reserve to try and plug in the gaps in our line. Even after constantly charging into the enemy's rear with my cavalry and outflanking them with infantry, they were just holding so well, and they were grinding us down so efficiently. I couldn't believe it. I really thought the new Hastati and Principe reforms, the Polybian reforms, were going to make a big impact on our units, and they have. But it appears the Carthaginian infantry is still just as good, if not better, in a lot of cases. Now you do have to take into account that our troops are very tired. It's been raining this whole time, so it's going to make them even more tired than normal. But still, it was very underwhelming how my troops performed, and that's going to be something I need to try and deal with moving forward into the campaign. I'm committing Lucius here, who is the leader of the First Legion, to those of you who forgot, to charging into the rear of the enemy, except, boom, out of nowhere, Lucius gets killed. That is the leader of our family faction. The leader of Rome just died while attacking some units in the rear. That is absolutely catastrophic, or it has the potential to be catastrophic at the very least. That is really not what I was hoping for. I couldn't believe it. He still has more than half his troops left in his personal bodyguard, but didn't matter, he died somehow. He was a little bit older, well into his 50s, but he didn't have any heirs that were of age, and we're going to be seeing exactly what the consequences are for his death very soon. At the very least, though, Akragas is still under our control. And so there we have it, a close victory according to the game, but to be honest, it's not wrong. Could have even nearly been a pirate victory, because we lost so many men. We nearly lost half of our force. The entire garrison was obliterated. Nearly, except we actually didn't technically lose any units besides Lucius, but as you can see, the garrison is very, very depleted, down to nearly the last man. But the only unit we actually lost was Lucius Monocularis himself, leader of the Julia clan. Carthaginians took some decent casualties, nowhere near enough for me to be happy, but at the end of the day we do get to keep Akragas, and we are going to keep money for that. Get money for that, rather. Now here is the family situation. Gnaeus Fabricius Sura now becomes the leader of the faction. He must have been a distant cousin of Lucius or something, because he was because he wasn't a actual son. He wasn't even an other noble on the right hand side. He wasn't anyone that I could select or recruit. He just came in and joined us as soon as Lucius died. So that's that. But anyway, He's going to be the new leader of the Julia faction. However, there's a man in the Junia faction who somehow is now the leader of Rome. He has the first citizen symbol, or first among equals, something like that. It's some sort of Latin that I'm terrible at remembering. But either way, that purple symbol usually indicates who is actually leading the whole faction. So I don't know why he got it and a member of my family didn't. But anyway, we're going to be looking into dealing with him and making him disappear very soon, hopefully. Anyway, despite losing Lucius in such a bad way, we actually still have good influence in the Senate. We did lose a little bit. We were a little bit higher before, nearly around 50%, I believe. I'm not too sure, but if I remember correctly, we're close to 50. So we do lose a bit of influence. However, everyone's still happy with us because we lost a Julian general, not a general of their faction. So it's not too bad yet, but if we start losing Lucius's children, then it could be very catastrophic. Now here is a battle that I wanted to highlight to you guys, and we're not going to go into it, but this is what I was talking about when I was mentioning the tediousness of battles and fighting Carthage. I had to do this battle twice. Each time it went for nearly an hour, so straight up that makes it tedious as fuck. Second off, the first time I fought the battle, I won, except I didn't because there was one little puny ship that was stuck out in the ocean and I didn't have a battle timer on for whatever reason. So I had to exit the battle after waiting about half an hour to try and see if he would rout. He never did, so I had to fight it again. The second time we won, and we even didn't take too bad casualties. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. And then the game crashed during the end turn, so that was fantastic. I definitely didn't rage quit for the night after that. So here you're just seeing me auto resolve. I was just like, screw it, let's just get it over and done with. I don't even care anymore. And because of my carelessness, and because the game hates me, we lose basically the entire 3rd Legion. We lost all of our melee infantry, most of our cavalry and light infantry. The leader, who is actually the leader of the Junia faction, so we don't want him to die necessarily, otherwise I'll get very disloyal. But he didn't lose too many men, interestingly enough.
2 kinds of fish.
Either way, we keep Akragas. Here, I'm just getting some good relations established with Epirus, which is very important now that they are the masters of Greece, you may have noticed. They basically control all of Greece. They have Athens as a client state, and so now that they're actually fairly powerful, I need to try and make amends to make sure we don't get stabbed in the back. At least not yet. We're not ready for that. So I'm trying to set up good relations with them in the east. Meanwhile, I'm recruiting troops in Sicily, and then this comes up during the end term. The Adrician kingdom comes to me begging for peace, and they take massive indemnities and pay us for those indemnities. 18,000. We do get peace, and we get trade, and we get a non-aggression pact. So basically, we're getting a crap ton of money, getting continuous money, and we're also getting basically a little secret handshake saying, hey, look, we're not going to attack you. At least not for a while, which is exactly what we need. Now we have a chance to actually break the stalemate with Carthage and send our navy back down south. Now we have a lot more money than we did before, so we can expand militarily and hopefully try and recruit another navy. And now we can actually compete against Carthage down here. And then the next turn, we have Carthage attacking Massalia. It's just one after the other of bad things, and then we get awesome things like this. The fact that we lost well, not that we lost, but that our war with the Adricians is over, and now that Carthage has another massive enemy to the northwest, and it's absolutely best case scenario for us. I really could not have, you couldn't write that any better. It's absolutely perfect. I can't stress that enough. Now Carthage is going to be really focused on fighting Massalia in Iberia, which they bordered. They actually border each other on the eastern coast of Iberia, and now they also have to deal with us, and they just can't handle that, and you're going to see why very shortly. They still have a few fleets hanging around. We can't just rush in and take Carthage and be done with it. This is still a very hard struggle, but we are going to start making some progress, whereas before we've basically sat around for 20-30 turns in pretty much a stalemate, even longer than that. Going forward though, we did hit the year 270 BC, nothing happening in Roman history really at this time. just solidifying their hold on Rome, and the lead up to the First Punic War was beginning, which we've obviously gone way ahead of. Here the Carthaginians actually come out and attack my navy after I've filled it up with more ships and have sent it down to Syracuse. For whatever reason, the auto resolve's in my favor. I'm just going to take the auto resolve and run with it. I don't trust myself manually fighting the battle. I know I would do worse if I fought it, and so we are going to take some shitty losses, but the enemy navy is going to take a lot more losses than we do. So at the end of the day, we nearly, in theory, just won supremacy down in the south navally. A few more turns pass, the first Republican navy recovers, and I have a second smaller navy right next to it, who is led, by the way, by that member of the Julian faction who's now apparently in control of Rome. It would be such a shame if his ship sunk out here in the middle of nowhere, but anyway, we'll see what happens. Here I tried a little 1-2 tactic where I sent the big first navy against a Carthaginian one, and then I would have the second Republican navy coming in from the side and trying to outflank them. Both of the enemy Carthaginian navies ended up running away again. However, now we're going to actually corner them and get a good fight against them. For whatever reason, the second navy didn't back me up here, but I didn't need them to. We already had more than enough of a percentage chance in the auto resolve, so I just took that auto resolve. We did lose 2 ships, which kind of sucked. I was very surprised, considering how high our chances were, but anyway, doesn't matter too much. We're getting naval supremacy now, out of nowhere. We've gone from being completely landlocked in Italy and Sicily to currently bossing around Carthage like a little punk, and we're just drowning them, quite literally. Here I'm going to chase the navy down to one of their coastal towns, and because of that, they actually have not only is a navy right next to the town, but there's a full army that is actually out here on their transport ship. So we're going to attack that army, we're going to obliterate it, and in the same battle, we're going to take on the Carthaginian navy. And here we are. Have my navy formed up. We're going to be having my melee troops up the front in the first line. Second line, we're going to be having my levies, and then in the rear is just going to be my general. I'm trying to keep him a little protected as he is a little worn out from the other battles. He's lost a few of his bodyguard. But I am going to show you guys pretty much this whole battle, as I thought it was interesting because it's basically our first ever proper naval battle. For now, it's just been us slaughtering armies on transport ships, whereas now we have that, but we also have a proper navy coming in the rear. You can see them at the back left of the screen. My reinforcements were coming in on the right, and I was trying to get them ready to form up against the actual navy. Here, I'm just trying to obliterate the transport ships as fast as I can. The quicker we can do that, the quicker we can form up and be ready to receive the enemy navy. I was a little worried about fighting the navy, but also at the same time, we kind of have to take these risks. If we don't take a risk and take on this navy, we're just going to be stuck in Sicily forever, and I'm kind of getting sick of Sicily. I want to get out, I want to get Africa, I want to get stuff done, so that's why I'm trying to be a little bit more bold with my decisions, at least for the First Punic War for now. But again, this Punic War is going to take a very long time. Carthage is very spread out, has a lot of territory, and even if, for say example, this turn I took Carthage, it would still be nowhere near defeated, so it's going to take us a long time. As you can see, this quickly devolved into basically a clusterfuck. The enemy navy came at us, but then they went to my right-hand side, going for my reinforcements, which is interesting because that's where the leader of Rome is apparently. So we'll see what happens with him. I am trying to finish up with the transport ships. A couple of them did board some of our ships, so it's going to take me a while to try and deal with that. But a lot of the micromanaging was quite hard to do in such a large battle where it's so spread out and whatnot. But despite the pretty heavy damage my ships took from the enemy's flaming arrows and whatnot, we still get a decisive victory. And here we are, we get a heroic victory. Now, something I wanted to show you guys is that we actually did lose the leader of Rome, the member of the Junia faction. I'm not sure what his name was, Publius, I believe. That was very, very funny. And the thing is, his ship didn't even get destroyed. So he was like the one dude in his, well, on his ship that somehow got sniped by an archer or something. Absolutely hilarious. Like I said, you can't write this stuff. So I'm just going to get a random leader, come on in and take up the slot of leading the First Navy. I don't want my leader to do it, because he's already leading the First Legion, actually. I had him replace Lucius after he died. Despite that, though, the Junia faction's still loyal to us, but we do need to be careful with letting the generals die. However, the main thing is that we are now back in control of Rome. The first among equals trade is now ours, once again, which is awesome, but also very funny at the same time. You will notice that we only have a couple kids that are actually still alive that belong to Lucius, so I'm going to be declaring one of them the heir, and as soon as they come of age, we're going to get rid of Sura, because he's just a cousin of Lucius or whatever. We'll go with cousin, and we'll bring it back to the rightful hands of the Monocularis branch of the Julia faction. Now here I'm blockading Carthage itself. There are no more navies around the area that I can see. There could be some in the fog of war, but for now it looks like we've annihilated their navy. So I'm going to be blockading the town, and this is where we're going to be seeing our first opportunity for an invasion into Africa. However, we are out of time, so thank you all for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I shall see you in the next one.